What's up everybody, today we're back with another Kingdom Hearts character profile, and this will most likely be a little different as we take a look at more Final Fantasy characters in the series. The characters we are looking at today are the trio on Destiny Islands, being TIDUS, WAKKA, and SELPHIE. And I will quickly go over each of the characters, their background, personality designs, and fighting style, one character at a time. But enough talking, let's get into the profile. The Final Fantasy trio lives on Destiny Islands, and they consist of SELPHIE from Final Fantasy VIII, TIDUS from Final Fantasy X, and WAKKA from Final Fantasy X also. And SELPHIE appears in Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts 2, and Coded. TIDUS and WAKKA appear in Kingdom Hearts 1, Chain of Memories, and Coded also. But as for their background, SELPHIE lives on Destiny Islands, where we only really see her hanging around the water, and she talks to Sora briefly about the mysteries of the Paopu fruit. But she does fight Sora if you ask her. She also appears to ask Sora a question in the Dive to Heart section, being, what is most important to you? Once the world is engulfed in darkness though, we don't see her again. She does appear as a memory in Chain of Memories to talk to Sora briefly, and at the end of Chain of Memories she shows up on Destiny Island, showing her asking what is wrong with Kairi. In Kingdom Hearts 2 we see that she has gotten older and was walking home from school with Kairi, where it seemed due to Naminé's power she has forgotten Sora, after Kairi brings up a boy she can't remember. Lastly appears encoded as Data at Destiny Islands and tells Sora to destroy the blocks, and she gives him a high potion, or in the remake, a defense +1. As for her resistance in Final Fantasy VIII, she was a friend to Squall who she fought alongside, where they both went to the mercenary force called Seed. And that is it for SELPHIE. But as for TIDUS, he also lives on Destiny Islands, where he spends his time swinging his stick by himself, and briefly talks to Sora, and you can go also fight TIDUS too if you ask. He does appear to ask Sora a question in Dive to Heart, also being, what are you afraid of? And again, at the destruction of the world, he disappears to not be seen again for the rest of the game. In Chain of Memories, he does appear briefly as a memory to talk to Sora, and at the end we see him playing with WAKKA and SELPHIE. He is only shortly mentioned in Kingdom Hearts 2, and in Coded he appears as Data in Destiny Islands, and he's trying to figure out the reason for the black blocks on the island, and he tells Sora he saw a hooded man, but you have to defeat him to tell Sora where. As for Final Fantasy X background, he is the protagonist who is a blitzball player that is sent 1,000 years into the future and is trying to fight off the being called Sin that has been destroying civilization. Lastly, most of the time WAKKA, who is seen most of the time on Destiny Island standing around with his blitzball, and you can talk to him shortly and also fight him. He, like the other two, appear to ask Sora a question in Dive to Heart, being, what do you want out of life? And like the others, it disappear when the world is destroyed. In Chain of Memories, he appears shortly as a memory and appears at the end of the game also with TIDUS and SELPHIE, and in Kingdom Hearts 2 he is shortly mentioned by SELPHIE and appears encoded to shortly talk to Sora. And as for his origins in Final Fantasy VIII, he is part of a blitzball team and meets TIDUS, to which he fights alongside to defeat Sin. Also, it's good to note that all three hang out together a lot, as you can kind of tell by what I said a minute ago. And that is it for their story. But SELPHIE is voiced by Molly Keck in English, Mayuko Ayako in Japanese, TIDUS is voiced by Sean Fleming in English, and Masakazu Morito in Japanese, and WAKKA is voiced by D. Bradley Baker in English and Kazuya Nakai in Japanese. And that is it for their background. SELPHIE seems to be very carefree and chipper and seems to like romance, pointing out the Paopu fruit and how it connects people and how romantic it is. TIDUS, the few times we see him, seems to be very competitive and wants to win whenever it comes to fighting, and likes to fight, shown when testing Sora and fighting before giving away information. And WAKKA seems laid back and chill, and that's really it that we get for their personalities. SELPHIE of the three is the only one with two designs, but her main design looks like a younger version of her Final Fantasy VIII self, with medium length curled hair with green eyes, with a yellow dress but with reddish sandals. And we also see her in her school uniform, where she does look older, and she wears a white shirt and with a blue plaid tie and skirt and black shoes and socks. As for TIDUS, he has one design and also look like a younger version of his Final Fantasy X self, except he has light brown hair rather than blonde hair, and also seems to have an X or scar on his face. His design though is similar to his Final Fantasy's design, but less detailed, with a yellow and white open shirt, black pants with one leg longer than the other, and a few zippers, and yellow and black sandals. WAKKA again is younger looking and very similar to his Final Fantasy self, but with reddish pointed up hair and a blue bandana, a light yellow shirt with white stitching, blue wristbands, darker yellow pants with an X on them, and green sandals. And that is it for their designs. The 2 times where you fight SELPHIE, she uses a jump rope. It is supposed to be representing her nunchuck she uses in her Final Fantasy game, and she flails it around trying to hit Sora. TIDUS uses a stick representing the sword or dagger he uses in Final Fantasy game and slashes at Sora for attacks. And WAKKA uses a blitzball, which is the actual weapon that he uses in Final Fantasy, and he throws it sometimes stronger than others and will do a spin attack when close. And the only other time you can fight any of them is on Destiny Islands, and you can either fight them one-on-one or one versus all 3 of them. And that is it for their fighting style. And that is it for the Final Fantasy Destiny Island trio, and well, they aren't important at all when it comes to the story, but for me, it's cool to see WAKKA and TIDUS in the game since I did play and enjoy that game. Otherwise, what do you think of these 3 characters? And that is it for this profile. Let me know what Final Fantasy characters you want me to do next, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.